Super GT is the equivalent of V8 supercars in Japan. It probably goes back to when it was racing, because I used to watch these cars and I was a crazy Silvia fan. I guess for me, I was like, oh yeah, I really want that car. When you take it to the track and you're absolutely abusing this thing, it's seeing levels of stress that you could never put through or never calculate or never expect. I'm Dale, and this is my ex-Super GT S15 Silvia. For me, cars probably started when I was really young. So after school, I did some work in V8 supercars for a while. Then after that, I went and studied mechanical engineering at university. I've been involved in some GT3 cars, like your top range, like your current Lamborghinis and things like that. A lot of suspension work, chassis design for sports sedans. So I guess a lot of local grassroots stuff as well. So the technical side of the race cars now it's crazy. Every bit of data, everything that happens on a car, you can measure. You can see and understand the car without watching it on the track. A lot of the time, driver feedback can get mixed up in what's happening in the car. A good driver is always close, there's no doubt about that, but the data does not lie. It doesn't give you a wrong perception because everything, unless you've got something set up wrong in the computer. So this car's an ex-Super GT car, and Super GT is the equivalent of V8 supercars in Japan, probably with a bit more technology put into the cars. There was two categories of Super GT in Japan, and they were GT300 and GT500. Both were based around FIA GT3 rules, with the exception of the GT300 category being restricted to 300 engine horsepower. Okay, so this car was originally scheduled to be a Nismo Works race car. It finally got raced in 2001 with Hasami Motorsport, and it was then sponsored by Unisi Ejects. The car was pretty successful. It came third both years. The car then got retired after the 2002 season. It was in storage until about 2009. The car was purchased in 2009 by a gentleman from Norway, and he went and raced it in the Gap Bill series over in Norway, which is pretty big. I purchased it as a rolling shell essentially. What we've had to do is strip the whole car down. I've had to do things like, suspension bearings, custom one-off parts that were made, so we've had to remake them here. And try and convert the car into parts that you can buy from a catalogue is extremely hard. So it was just a car, here you go, there's no information, there's no data, there's no, this is the suspension settings, this is where it's ideally good at. We've had to start from scratch. The best thing about buying this car for being a race car is the fact that all the suspension work and the design has been done. So it's been tested, proven. It might sound cliche, but it works. I don't have to develop the aero. All I have to worry about is getting it working, get the engine, get the electronics going and understand and learn the suspension, and it puts me ahead of the game in that way. The special things on this car that probably really make it worth having, aside from building something from scratch, is the suspension and probably the aero. You've got magnesium materials, you've got geometries that, in layman's terms, are probably up in the Formula open wheel type race cars. In this car, you've got titanium uprights, extremely lightweight. The brake calipers on it, for example, they're all water cooled. And that's normally something that's reserved for Indy cars or Formula One or rally cars. That sort of work you can't develop yourself, and that's what gives it a big advantage for me. The aerodynamics on this car were developed by West. The engineers set up the cars with aero to be really slippery, low drag, but still high downforce, so it was quite a tricky package. We've put an SR20 back into this car, and that was what originally ran in the car in the touring car days in Japan. It's the heart of the car, it's what it was designed and built around, and it worked well for them. It's an SR20 turbo block, but we're running the SR20 VE cylinder head. Also running an intake manifold that we're CNC'd up, that was made in-house. We haven't gone for an all-out high horsepower setup. We're probably aiming for about 350 kilowatts at the wheels. For us, it's all about the durability, as well as having an engine that's nice and responsive. So it is turbocharged, and it's paired up with a 6-speed sequential gearbox. To get this car set up and running and really get the best out of it is going to take a lot of work. They're not very easy to set up. It's a lot of maths, a lot of data, a lot of research. We've done the numbers loosely on paper on this car. We can see it being a little bit quicker than the current GT3s. I've got a good group of friends who are helping me, and we know what the car can do, but for all of us, it's a scary time, I guess. It's probably the most overriding feeling at the moment. It's hard to control all the emotion. Yeah, it's a nervous feeling. I don't know how it's going to perform. It's a weird feeling to explain. Excitement and nervousness at the same time. So we're going to debut the car at Time Attack. That is a big event for us, mainly because Time Attack is fun. It's a good introduction for the car because it's not door-to-door racing. The biggest response I've got to this, since I've sort of told people that I've got the car, is, "You're crazy, you're nuts. Like, why?" Alyssa, my partner, she's been really supportive of it. She's been, you know, right behind me on it, which is a big help. I've got no idea how Nissan junkies feel about this car. I really don't. I think they'd be excited about it. I don't know how many people know the history of the car. A lot of expectation behind it. There's a lot to achieve from it. There's a lot of potential out of it. But to get all this happening is going to be very hard. So, but you know, it's a challenge.